Hi everybody, this is the Lost Track of Time, and you'll have to excuse me, have a woodpecker pecking on our chimney today. So if you hear anything, that's what that is. Chapter 7. After the souffle dish and silverware were washed and put away, Dill escorted Penelope down a long hall, stopping before a door made of dark wood. Inside was a bed made from the roots of a tree growing directly overhead. The roots, which extended down into the room, had been coaxed into the shape of a large, intricately woven basket. The bed, or basket, as it were, was piled ridiculously high with pillows and blankets. "Sleep well," said Dill. "Good night," said Penelope, and closed the door. Penelope sat down on the edge of the bed and took out her notebook. She added "moodle" to her list of fascinating words. She also added anomaly. Next to anomaly, she wrote the word failure and a question mark. Afterward, she jotted down the important moments of her day, the hole in her schedule, meeting Dill, the story of the great Moodler, before slipping off her shoes and crawling under the covers. The bed rocked back and forth ever so slightly, as if the tree above her was swaying in the breeze. The gentle movement could have put Penelope right to sleep, but it didn't. Instead, she lay there thinking about her mother. When her mother had a problem, she got organized. But Penelope wasn't very good at coming up with schedules, action items, and agendas. The only thing she was any good at was moodling, and now she was even a failure at that. Why can't I come up with any ideas? Where did they all go? Penelope rolled over onto her side and squeezed her eyes shut, trying to clear her head. If I can't come up with any ideas, I'll never find the great Moodler. Dill will be so disappointed. Penelope sat up. She punched her pillow a few times, then lay back down. But as soon as she closed her eyes, the worries started streaming in again. I'll moodle, and nothing will happen. Pop! Except Kronos will probably catch me. Pop, pop! And send me away to the clock tower. Penelope was so consumed with the process of worrying that she hardly noticed a very soft popping sound coming from nearby. I'll starve in the tower, or catch pneumonia, pop, pop, or turn into a clockworker, pop, 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 and never be a writer, poppity pop, pop. Each new worry spawned another worry, and another. Soon they were coming so fast Penelope couldn't keep up. She tossed and turned late into the night. It wasn't until she fell into a fitful sleep that the worries ceased and the popping grew silent. Penelope woke before dawn to the smell of burnt toast. After stumbling around a bit, she managed to find her notebook and shoes, then made her way to the kitchen. "Good morning! Ready for—" Dill's voice trailed off. He put down the honey jar he was holding and hurried toward Penelope. "Did you sleep all right?" "Not really," she said, stifling a yawn. "I stayed up half the night worrying about finding the great Moodler." "I can see that." Dill took Penelope by the shoulders, turning her this way and that. "It's written all over your face." Penelope put a hand up to her cheek and gasped. She felt bumps. She touched her forehead, nose, and chin. Bumps, bumps, and more bumps. "What happened to me?" she cried. Dill gripped her shoulder. "I'll tell you on one condition." "Okay," said Penelope, her heart racing. "You have to promise me not to worry." If Penelope hadn't been so dazed, she might have protested. Instead, she limply crossed her heart. "I promise." Dill dragged Penelope over to the living room and sat her down. He turned to a cabinet nearby and took out a mirror, holding it against his chest. "Remember, you promised not to worry." Penelope nodded and held out her hand. Dill gave her the mirror. She immediately forgot her promise. Her face was covered with bumps, wrinkly red bumps. "I have a disease!" she screamed, and right before her eyes, pop, 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 3 more appeared on her nose. "You promised not to worry!" shrieked Dill and snatched the mirror away. Penelope snatched it right back. "How can you tell me not to worry? I've got bumps all over my face." "Those aren't bumps. Those are worry warts." If we had a magnifying glass, you'd see they're made of teeny tiny words, spelling out your troubles. The more you worry, the worse it gets. Penelope wasn't listening. She was staring at her reflection. I'm going through the rest of my life covered in ugly red warts, she thought. I'll never be able to show my face in public again. A few more warts squeezed onto her forehead. Pop, pop. Her face was in danger of disappearing altogether. Dill knelt down beside Penelope. Quick, tell me what you were worried about. Penelope dragged her eyes away from the mirror and tried to focus. Please, pleaded Dill. It's important you remember. Penelope closed her eyes and tried to make a list. Being captured by Kronos, wasting away in the tower, catching pneumonia, starving to death. She peeked one eye out. Go on, urged Dill. Penelope took a deep breath and let all the words rush out. Turning into a clockworker and never moodling again. Horrible, horrible, horrible! Dill leaped to his feet and began to run around snatching things from closets and cabinets, bits of rope, flashlights, boots, and hammers. Imprisonment! Starvation! Pneumonia! He dashed off to the next room and came charging back with several boxes of tissues, which he threw onto the growing pile. We're almost ready now, he said, and disappeared into the hall closet. Ready for what? Asked Penelope. Dill emerged from the closet holding a stepladder and an inflatable raft. What do you mean, for what? We've got a lot of disastrous matters to take care of. Penelope scrunched down in her chair. Not really, she said. Nothing actually happened. Dill dropped the stepladder. Nothing? Penelope shook her head. Absolutely nothing. Penelope shook her head again. You're telling me you stayed up half the night for no good reason? I had plenty of reasons, insisted Penelope. You saw me try the Moodle hat. I'm useless. I'll never be able to help you find the Great Moodler, or fend off Kronos, or his clockworkers, if they find me out here. Worrying won't change all that. By the way, I think they're spreading, said Dill, pointing to her neck. Penelope checked. Sure enough, there were more bumps. What am I going to do? She cried. Stop worrying. They're bound to go away. When? Penelope demanded. Dill's muffled voice came from inside the closet, where he was busily putting everything away that he'd just taken out. It should only take a few hours, or a few days. A few days? Penelope couldn't believe what she was hearing. Dill popped out of the closet and tried shoving it closed with his shoulder. To be honest, he said, huffing and puffing, I have no idea how long it would take. I've never had worrywarts myself, so I'm not sure what the cure is. You don't know what the cure is? Pop, pop, pop. Penelope's face and neck erupted in a fury of red bumps. Nope, said Dill, and gave the door a final shove. There was a muffled crash before it clicked, obediently closed. Can't you think of something? Penelope pleaded. Well, said Dill, drumming his fingers on his chin, I can certainly give it a try. Penelope watched him, holding her breath, trying not to worry. Pirates! Dill suddenly shouted. Penelope looked around quickly. Where? Not here, said Dill. Last night, in your worries. Did they show up? No. How about tigers? Did you worry about them? Of course not. That's ridiculous. Dill flung open his arms. There you have it, then. What do I have? Penelope said, each word very carefully. She was fighting the urge to throw the mirror at him. The cure! Penelope looked at her reflection. The worrywarts hadn't gone anywhere. What are you talking about? She practically screamed. If you got the warts by worrying about all the bad things that could have happened, then the best way to get rid of them is to think about all the bad things that couldn't have happened. It's like worrying, but in reverse. Penelope stared at Dill, her eyes bulging. Whoever heard of worrying in reverse? Here, let me help, he continued. What's your least favorite thing? Snakes, she said immediately. That one was easy. Well then, urged Dill, tell me something about snakes that couldn't possibly have happened last night. Penelope thought about it for a moment. I didn't get squeezed to death by a python. It was really more... I didn't get squeezed to death by a python? It really was more of a question. You're a very lucky girl, said Dill, his voice deep and serious. Penelope thought she might have felt a slight tingling sensation in her face. Either the worrying in reverse was working, or she was just embarrassed. Go ahead, prompted Dill. What's another awful thing you didn't have to worry about? I didn't fall into a pit. Or get snapped in two by sharks, Dill added helpfully. Penelope couldn't help but giggle. Or swept away by a dust storm. Or drowned in a whirlpool. Or run over by an elephant. Or frozen inside a glacier. By now, Penelope's cheeks were burning hot, but she kept going. I didn't get captured by headhunters. Or eaten by cannibals. Or thrown into a bed of scorpions. It's working, shouted Dill, pointing at her face. Penelope held up the mirror. Turning it this way and that, she watched as the last remaining wart faded from bright red to soft pink to the same creamy color of her skin. Then, just like that, it was gone. Congratulations, said Dill, giving Penelope's hand a firm shake. It's official. You've got nothing to worry about. And that's the end of Chapter 7. Stay tuned for Chapter 8.